right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Chamber Chat. I got a very special guest in the car with me today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, and we will kick it off from there.
Hi, I'm Brody Welch, and my business is Life and Balance Acupuncture.
So obviously, I think most people get the idea what acupuncture is, but for those, the dozens of people that watch these things, what's acupuncture all about?
Acupuncture is a complete system of healthcare that can help you get out of pain. It's also a complete internal medicine system that can help with conditions related to stress, digestion, hormone balance, sleep, anxiety, depression. It really, there's phenomenal things that acupuncture can do, and it's really kind of a misnomer because we do a whole lot more than sling needles as acupuncturists. we prescribe herbal medicine, we do manual therapy. I particularly love treating orthopedic stuff, so I look with kind of my allopathic medicine diagnostic hat on, and figure out, we're doing needling into origins and insertions and trigger points of muscles, and helping people to feel better in their bodies without drugs and surgery. So
I wanted to touch on that because there are probably, and you I'm sure hear this on a daily basis, there's a lot of misconceptions about what acupuncture is, right?
Yeah,
it's just like you said, the sling and needles thing. Yeah. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. The history goes back at least 3,000 years, it wouldn't kind of still be around if it didn't work. Works on pets, works on people.
That's a good way, yeah.
And more importantly, we're starting to see the research and the data show kind of like the NIH funding acupuncture studies. No longer is the question, does acupuncture work? And it's much more about what are the mechanisms of action behind how it works, and what conditions is it best for, and what's the dosage. And so for example, it's like if you go to an acupuncturist once, you might leave feeling more relaxed. You might feel with like your pain level is down from a 6 to a 3, but it's likely going to come back because how it works is by helping the body to heal itself and repair itself, which is a process kind of like chiropractic or massage therapy or physical therapy. It's like it's not necessarily a one and done, but at the end of that process, you should feel significantly better. And so usually it's like I'll encourage people, if they're dealing with a pain issue, give it 6 visits, and you will come out the other side. I expect people to be at least 50% better after 6 visits.
And I'm always amazed with with the I don't know what the word is, like the mechanics of acupuncture. How, and you just touched on it, it's thousands of years old, and obviously it works, otherwise it wouldn't be around anymore. But I always like, and you and I have talked about this when we first met back whenever it was, and it's just how did they know back then? I mean, that level of, with all the science and medicine and everything we got nowadays, we're talking about some, pretty non-sort of technology, at least. How did that work?
It's a good question.
Crazy.
It's a really good question, and there's certainly, I'm not a deep scholar of Chinese medical history, but I do know that dissection was performed. I do know that people while the points don't necessarily correspond exactly with Western anatomical structures, there's a good deal of overlap between things like musculotendinous junctures, or like places that are particularly potent at sending a message to the body, and acupoints. And so we know that, for example, putting in that certain points like pericardium 6 here on the wrist, that will have a direct effect on the heart. And that's what it's used for. And a point right next to it which has completely different indications, won't do the same thing. And so it's like, it is really fascinating and sort of mystifying how the depth to which that could have been discovered. And I personally believe that there's, that if you think about it as an energetic medicine, we know that the channels of acupuncture came before the points, and so that kind of people had a rough idea of like, here's how the body communicates with itself along these pathways, which a lot of which correspond with neural pathways, and so it kind of makes sense that would be discovered, and a lot of times it was people meditating for a very long time and getting in touch with their own energetic body. And when I say stuff like that, it's sort of, it's easy to dismiss it as kind of a woo-woo thing, but it's absolutely like the human, we are bioelectrical beings, and it's just a question of whether we're thinking about ourselves in Newtonian physics, where we're a bunch of stuff, right? Or whether we are in quantum physics land, where we're mostly empty space with little bits of matter, and that if we work on affecting the empty space part, that it's like matter and energy change into each other all the time, right? E equals MC squared. And so thinking about like tapping into the energy is going to affect the stuff in a lot faster way, kind of like a hormone or a neurotransmitter. Action at a distance.
Well, and I don't want to focus on like misconceptions of acupuncture, but you touched on a few where it's like in modern day medicine, and obviously this is not my field, but just from the outside looking in, it's, oh, you've got a problem, it requires surgery. Oh, it requires, you have to go to a regular doctor, and some obviously will, but there's this whole and maybe acupuncture is perhaps the best example to use from this. How on earth can sticking a needle in me somewhere fix something where, no, you just get surgery for that? I got shoulder issues. How I must need surgery for that, right? Versus, going in and tapping into your world.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, certain conditions are going to be like, certain conditions certainly do, like, if drugs and surgery are your best options, then great, take them.
Yeah, sure.
They're there.
Right.
But there's a lot of conditions, chronic arthritis, for example, chronic neck pain, right? You're at work, your neck and shoulders get tense all the time. You're not going to get surgery for that, right?
Yeah. But a lot of people think you just live with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's just it, right?
Exactly. And like that's
I'm
like
just old.
One of my favorite things to help people, to prove to people that it's not just aging is not a steady decline towards death. Your left knee is the same age as your right knee, so they both, one doesn't have to hurt.
Right.
And that really, it's like the body wants balance. It wants homeostasis. It's smart. It knows what to do. And a lot of times, kind of that when we go into local needling, we are decreasing inflammation. We're talking to, we're taking down neurogenic inflammation. So for example, let's say you've lived with chronic pain for a while. You've got a nerve that is spewing out literally adhesive chemicals into the surrounding tissue, causing muscles and fascia to get glommed up, right? And that's what we call an adhesion, right? A sticky knot in lay terms, right? So when we are needling in acupuncture, and by the way, the needles that I'm talking about are like barely qualify, right?
I was going to ask you.
There's
we'll get to that.
Yeah, they're super tiny and they're solid instead of hollow. So like they're about twice the diameter of a human hair,
right.
and we're putting them into these points and sending a message to the body of like, hey, first of all, reduce the pain. It takes down nociception, or the effects on nociceptors. It talks to neurotransmitters, and it decreases inflammation. Also increases strength in the body, because like when you have that sort of, when you break the cycle of that neurogenic inflammation, you can do more, right? Like when you're in less pain, you're allowed to get greater range of motion and greater flexibility, and in turn start using your muscles the way that they're supposed to be used. And then of course so part of this is like, we can do that locally, but we can also, if you think about your body as everything is, there's a kind of a mirror image in everything. So just kind of like reflexology, you can use the foot to target other parts of the body. You can use the hand to target other parts of the body. You can use the ear or the scalp, and really it's kind of the idea, like that's sort of in Chinese medicine philosophy too, that like we're a part of nature, all of nature exists in us, every part of the body exists in every other part of the body. And so it's like, this is here where we get to be able to find points that are on the opposite side, on the opposite joint from the place it hurts, and we can use that, and it will talk to the brain in very as we're just learning more about how the brain works,
right.
And it will send messages. And a lot of these pathways are have to do with embryological development, right? The idea that of some of our first cell divisions that exist, that are something that the ancients of Chinese medicine picked up on and incorporated into the theory.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy to think, like, again, the whole connection thing is just fascinating. I'm going to ask you an impossible question here.
Yeah, go for it. Love impossible questions.
Yeah, exactly. So
who doesn't?
For the layman, for me, right? if I'm like, hey, okay, I think I'm not quite sure about acupuncture. I've heard it works. I got a buddy who said it worked. You know, somebody said something worked. Great. I want to come and see you because I've got XYZ. My shoulder's bad.
Yeah.
What is that first? Because I know from, you know, coming to see you and just talking to you about stuff, you do a lot of the education first. It's not just, you know, I think people's perception, come in, I lay down on the table, you jam needles in me and we're out. So what does it look like? What does a regular, if there is such a thing, regular visit look like?
Well, I listen, right? I have you fill out a bunch of forms online to get the sense of, like, first of all, your main complaint, how did your shoulder start hurting, when, where, why, like, was it an injury, was it a chronic problem?
Right.
Figure out where it came from, and then I'll also ask you kind of what's your life like, get a sense of what it's like to be you as much as possible. That's usually about a 45-minute process.
Yep.
Then I'll perform some assessments, right? So I'll do, I'll test range of motion, I'll test strength, like you might expect from a physical therapist or an orthopedic kind of a appointment, and then and then figure out kind of like where's the problem and what do we need to do to get you better. And so then I'll usually explain my findings a little bit, get someone on the table. I'll have them, you know, I will do the actual acupuncture, which might include some manual therapy, like some hand release kind of moves. I was a massage therapist before becoming an acupuncturist, so my hands are smart, and I've been in the field now for like 24 years.
You've done it a few times.
Yeah, I've touched thousands of bodies. So and typically put in needles, maybe electricity attached to that, kind of like a TENS unit. Sort of intramuscular e-stim can be great, but not, you know, it's not in every case. But for orthopedic stuff, I really like my electricity. Yeah. And you just usually means that you'll get there faster, where like something that might take 8 visits might instead take 5. So it's, you know, it's just it's a little bit, but it can be a little bit more of an intense experience. And so if we're not going electricity, most people find themselves after the needles are placed, they feel an initial kind of electrical zing at the points, and then they're usually pretty much they'll go to sleep. It's not uncommon that I'm wiping drool off the floor after someone has been in there for 25 minutes or so. And then we'll take the needles out, we'll reassess, see how things feel, and usually we'll, you know, I'd like to see people twice a week for 3 weeks for something that's physical medicine. If something is more a stress-related issue or more internal, I'd like to see people once a week for still 6 weeks or so, but maybe we'll space that out and we'll give herbs or lifestyle or diet time to work. I love empowering people with education about how to take care of themselves. I have a coaching practice that's separate from my clinic, and I've had a podcast for the past 6 years, so I can teach people about how to take care of themselves, because really what we do every day is going to be the most potent driver of how we end up feeling. And so if there's something that I'm seeing about how someone is moving, or how they might be sitting at work, or how they might be using their bodies, I might suggest things that they do differently, might assign therapeutic exercise or stretches. I love assigning breathing practices. I have teaching certifications in Qigong, which is like Taoist yoga, sort of kind of like Tai Chi, except more like an internal practice. Also yoga and meditation. So I've got a big toolbox from which to draw.
So I was just going to say the scope of what you do, and it kind of fits with what I think most people view as acupuncture, yoga, the sort of the Chinese medicine. It's the whole person. Mm-hmm. So it's not just, you got a bad shoulder, we'll just take a look at this area,
right, sure,
call it good, and do some exercises. That'd be good, then we'll fix it. It's literally like changing your lifestyle, you know, and it doesn't have to be, but it can be. Yeah. Again, not simple fixes, like they're not complicated inside, but it's not, again, where you have to, I'm gonna have to go to rehab for 6 months for this thing, depending on what it is, obviously. Right, and
it really sometimes can be that obviously every case is different depending on what's going on. Disclaimer. Yes, individual results may vary, but the idea that there's a lot of times people making the connection between for example, changes in how they're thinking, like in their expectations of themselves, right? People putting too much pressure on themselves at work, and that is the primary driver of stress chemistry affecting literally every other system in the body. And so helping to make the connections between how you're feeling and what you're doing and how you're living, it's like a lot of times that's my favorite thing to do, is to just hold up the mirror for someone and be able to coach them with small steps that feel doable about how things could be a little different, and helping them even to imagine, like, oh yeah, you don't actually have to live in this sort of pressure cooker kind of way that is steering you in the direction of disease, right? Because health isn't the absence of disease, right? It's living in accordance with who we really are, in a deep way. And that health and disease are not binary either. It's like there's a continuum. And so if we think about that if you're wanting to move from a place of symptoms to a place of health, it's what that's going to look like is symptoms decreasing in severity and frequency. It's going to look like eventually kind of the symptoms go away, but the imbalance that led to them might still be there. And so that's kind of, and so from with like looking at the tongue and the pulse, a lot of times we can detect imbalances in the body that have yet to show up as symptoms and help people prevent them. So, and there's also all sorts of ways that we have of theories and philosophies about like how to eat with the seasons, for example, so that we don't get sick, and taking our cues from nature and making sure that we are kind of listening to the body, teaching people how to listen to the body, and teaching them how to kind of remember that we are a part of nature, and to be able to follow kind of like the body often knows, and people often know themselves better than any healthcare provider can know them. And so having the humility to really listen to people and to find out what's going on, rather than assume that, like, okay, yeah, I'm an expert in Chinese medicine, but you're the expert on you, right? And so being able to really, I like that. to really get that that we're partners here, and that any positive outcome is going to be unique to our relationship.
That's cool. You touched on the podcast before we move on to something slightly different.
Sure.
What's the podcast all about? Well, obviously we know what it's about, but what?
The podcast is called A Healthy Curiosity. It's on being well in a busy world, and it draws on strategies for self-care from Chinese medicine, from Ayurvedic medicine, which is the traditional medicine of India, also functional medicine, kind of and related fields. Like I feel like a lot of our kind of popular episodes can be like just teaching people about things that we may not think about, right? Like what does our tongue say about our health? How to decode your poop, how to and then also things like the science of energy medicine, or these kinds of things. So I really love being able to learn from smart people doing cool stuff. And so
we're not talking one or two here, right? You've done a number.
I had a weekly podcast for 6 years, and so A Healthy Curiosity started in 2016, and it has 230 something episodes. I've had New York Times best-selling authors on, including James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. I've had Terry Walls, who is a functional medicine expert in multiple sclerosis, who like literally changed the field by working on herself, and things like that. So being able to learn from people who really are kind of game changing, and either in personal development or in medicine. And it's and then sometimes I just do solo shows talking about my own personal journey and what's going on in my quest to be a healthy, happy human, because a lot of times we teach what we most need to learn.
Yeah, exactly. One more time for those who, what's it called? One more time?
It's called A Healthy Curiosity, and you can get it anywhere you get your podcasts.
Go check that out. We'll change gears here slightly. One of the things that we do on Chamber Chat, obviously, we talk about the business, talk about, obviously, the stuff that you guys are doing, but we also like to get to know the person behind the podcast. What am I talking about? You got podcasts on my head now.
I am also the person behind the podcast.
There you go. It's not wrong. You're right. Yeah. True. So if it's cool, I want to start with we'll learn a bit about you. Is that all right?
What do you want to know?
Well, let's start with some basics. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was your upbringing like?
I grew up in the murk of suburbia near Boston, Massachusetts. And then I went to college in Connecticut and massage school in Portland and acupuncture school in Albuquerque before moving to Corvallis in 2003.
All right, so bit of explanation here.
Yeah.
So Boston, Portland, Albuquerque. What's the, you just were like darts on a map kind of deal, or?
Well, I knew I needed to come to the West Coast. Like
It's the coolest coast.
Really is. And you know, as much as I love my people back east, I knew that I wanted to be in the Northwest, and California seemed like done to death. So I figured Portland, and that was a good choice.
Good call.
But acupuncture school, I actually had a sister and a brother-in-law who both taught at an acupuncture school in Albuquerque. So I felt so when I accidentally stumbled into falling in love with it, I felt like it was an opportunity to go learn from them. And so I moved to Albuquerque for the 3.5 years that it took me to do the 2,800-hour master's degree that acupuncture requires. Worked as a massage therapist, and then I knew that as soon as I knew that wasn't home. As much as the Southwest was gorgeous, I wanted to come back to the Northwest, but I didn't think I needed all of Portland. And so I was looking for like my new town, ideally somewhere where I wouldn't be accused of practicing witchcraft as an acupuncturist, and a place that valued healthy lifestyle, healthy eating. And Corvallis was showing up on all these lists of like, great places to hike
Top
and
10,
bike
yeah.
Eat vegetarian, or like the things that kind of put it on the map. And so I checked it out. I actually thought it would be Eugene because there were there was more people and there were plenty of acupuncturists here.
Nobody wants to live in Eugene.
Well, I really didn't want to live in Eugene.
Terrible town.
It's
terrible
nothing against
town.
it. It just didn't draw me. And whereas in Corvallis, people seem to be bending over backwards to do nice things for me. And so it's
a nicer town, nicer people. Those
Corvallis.
Eugene people. Yeah, we're pandering a little bit here, but it's a terrible town down there. If you are you're at home, you're just chilling. You're gonna prepare a meal.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What's your plate look like? Your favorite ever meal?
Oh, that's going to depend on the season, because I have to eat with the seasons.
All right, we're in fall, officially in fall.
Officially in fall.
A few days
right.
in.
Yeah, so I'm going to make soups and stews involving roasted squash soup with lots of ginger and garlic would be excellent.
Okay.
Maybe some coconut milk, some curry powder, cumin, coriander, turmeric, that kind of thing. You
make it yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm going to cook from scratch. And lots of greens. I love the bitter greens, so I'd probably saute up some chard or some kale or some spinach or arugula or something like that, and have that. It's like people tend to get sick at the change of the seasons, and so this is the time of year where our bodies don't necessarily know whether it's
what's
fall
going
or
on.
summer.
Right.
Like we're getting these days that go back and forth. So I'm keeping it simple in my digestive system, and usually going to the farmer's market, looking at whatever looks good, and then cooking with whatever is the seasonally appropriate thing.
So don't give a sensible answer here and a logical answer. What is your favorite season and why?
Favorite season?
Only one.
Summer or if we're talking about Oregon, it is summer.
Yes. Nobody's favorite. Yeah, it's never winter in Oregon.
It is not winter in Oregon, but yeah, summer for sure.
Yeah. You get out, hike. You out.
As
you
much
gotta
as
be,
possible.
Yeah, right?
As much as possible. This is actually pretty tough for me to I love fall too, but it's the harbinger of the winter and the darkness and dampness to come, and so I don't love it as much as summer. But summer, I am out there hiking. I'm not really I don't feel like a full Oregonian in that I don't have sports requiring gear in the summer.
Ooh,
but
you gotta step up your gear game.
I know, I realize that. But I really do love just taking it slow, being out in nature, and taking it at a hiking speed, not a running speed or a mountain biking speed.
If you haven't, if you don't have a puffy jacket and a hoodie, some
I've got those
beanie.
things.
Oh, you do?
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
so you're most of the way there. Do you have walking sticks?
No.
Yeah, I don't think you're fully there yet. That's a must-have.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you can be a full Oregonian, I believe. Okay. I don't have them either. When you're just chilling and you're eating your soup and your stew, what music is playing when you're looking to relax? And what's your favorite Favorite type of music?
Oh, I'm like allergic to music if it's the wrong thing. So like I basically and I am a musician.
I've never heard someone phrase it like that.
Oh yeah, it's like I've got to be in the right mood for it. So it's likely going to be like I'm gonna tell Pandora the kind of vibe I'm looking for and see what happens. When I'm cooking, it's going to be something with a beat that I can dance to, and like love to move, love to groove, and but yeah, if it's
favorite band of all time.
Do not have one because again, allergic to it's just got to be.
It's the mood.
Depend. It's very mood dependent, and a lot of times I feel like for a lot of years, I literally don't know who is singing or playing the music that I'm listening to because I'm just having Pandora take care of it. And
I had this same conversation with somebody.
Back in the day when I had CDs, I could look at things and there would be a library that I could select from. And as opposed to like trying to conjure up like what do I actually want to hear, which is a very difficult question. That said, I love anything with like a yummy harmony involved, and I play in a band with my husband and another friend of ours.
For reals?
Yeah, we're the Hunks and the Hottie, and
that's what your band's called?
They were the Hunks, and then I joined, and that was 10 years ago, so they changed the name. We used to play at like wineries, and that was kind of our niche. We lost a band member to moving away, and then at the COVID we played a lot in our front yard for neighbors.
So what do you play? What type of music?
I play cello, and I sing some of the yummy harmonies with these guys. We're a classic grass rock band, I would say. So like I'm trying to pull us into this century, but a lot of it's still kind of like like Bob Dylan, Grateful Dead, but also like songs about death. a lot of really upbeat. But I think our crowd pleaser is Wagon Wheel, the Old Crow Medicine Show. But yeah, it's like we like to have a good time, and I love playing music live with people, like just playing by myself.
Cool.
There's no magic in it. It's all about the interplay.
And the cello is not. I mean, did you pick that up like as a kid?
Playing? I was really good when I was 12.
Well, everybody's really good with a 12.
Yeah, I peaked at 12.
Yeah.
But no, I play by ear, and
that's cool.
So it's a lot of fun.
If you get to try, obviously you've traveled a lot already. Favorite place you've ever been?
Well, I just got back from Croatia, and that was pretty spectacular. I highly recommend. Good one. Although I did go to let's see, I think Italy's up there too, but yes, Croatia I feel like is go before it gets loved to death would be my advice.
Okay, it's kind of a hidden little gem.
See, like I guess that since Game of Thrones was filmed there, it's on the tourism map, and they seem to be promoting it hard. But yeah, between the beautiful like turquoise waters of the Adriatic and the beautiful beaches and the old kind of almost like Venice, like these little walled cities where you can wander around the stone carless streets, and tons of cats and beautiful plants around, and then this national park that has like waterfalls and lakes that you can walk over on these bridges that are just like jaw-droppingly gorgeous.
Why'd you go?
I led a retreat to Mexico back in 2012, and where my husband came on that retreat, and so did two of the people who became our closest friends, and a person who also was on that retreat, an attendee who subsequently went to 5 or 6 other of my retreats that I've had. She's a world traveler, and she recommended to the 4 of us that we go, and so it had been on our radar screen. Since then, I just kept hearing good things about it, and so yeah, we were like, all right, Croatia, it's happening.
Nice. What about somewhere you haven't been that you want to go? Bucket list.
Oh, New Zealand.
Oh, good one.
Go to New Zealand.
Just same reason everybody else. It's so isolated, so just down.
There's natural beauty, and although I'd love to also, I've never been to Thailand, Vietnam, that area. I think that would be cool, and and maybe Machu Picchu. I'd love to see.
Any interest in space travel?
None.
None?
None.
Not even a tiny bit?
Nope.
Curious?
Nope.
Get shot up in a rocket and see what's up?
Plenty of beautiful things to do here. And,
You're like, and it's, let's wait till we get a few more going first, right?
Yeah, and also, like, let's pay attention to this planet, like, before,
Yeah, before we go ruin another one.
Yeah, exactly. Let's and I'm all for space exploration. But yeah, I think I'm going to concentrate on earthly things.
That's awesome. Person that you would love to meet. Who's on your bucket list for a dinner guest? We talked about food and about travel and about who.
A dinner guest. That's a great question.
Alive or dead? Maybe someone from history. Maybe.
Interesting.
We ask the tough questions here.
We do ask the tough questions. I
feel like you're gonna pick someone obscure that
I might
nobody
indeed. I think maybe Lao Tzu.
Okay.
Lao Tzu would be
no idea who that is.
The wrote the Tao Te Ching, basically considered the founder of Taoism. But so yeah, what
would you want to ask?
I would be really curious about I think I would be more interested in just observing, in the way that you can learn from how someone does things in addition to what they say. But I think it would just be interesting to learn that. I'd love to know so if you can describe the path, it's not the true path, right? That's the first lines of the Tao Te Ching. But it's what helps you find the path? What helps you get into the flow, right? Capital flow of capital F flow of knowing the right action in the moment all the time, because that's where I want to be.
I like that. That's a good answer.
Thanks.
That's. I'm gonna go. I think I can go on record saying that's the most obscure person we've had. Normally we get an Abraham Lincoln thrown in there or something, but no, I think that's a good one. I like it. Hey, as we get ready to wrap up here, obviously I think we can all say the last couple of years have not been the greatest,
No, haven't.
However, we like to put we like to always put a positive spin on things.
Yeah.
Professionally first, and then personally, give us something good that's come out of COVID, that's come out of the last 2 years for you.
100%, and this I think straddles both categories.
Okay.
Is that I finally broke up with overwork.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's like COVID killed my ambition, because I was doing way too much for way too long.
In a good way. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and having
that's a good answer.
Just trying to too many irons in the fire, and then when COVID hit, first of all, just having a profession where I'm privy to everyone else's struggles, and it's a privilege to sort of hear the anxiety, depression, loneliness, everything else that people were dealing with in the COVID era. I realized that in order to continue to be able to show up for people in a meaningful way, that I needed to pare down and really focus what I was doing. So I let go of coaching groups of people through habit change, and just focused on treating people here in Corvallis, and that was making that decision just helped create space in my life, in my day, in my nervous system. And I also and it allowed me to, I love having a routine. I love simplifying the basics of my life, because I want to save the bandwidth for the hard stuff. And so the more I can put onto, the more that is basic self-care habits that can be on autopilot, the more energy reserves I have for the things that, for creative stuff, for problems to solve, for the people in my life, etc. And during COVID, I got a rock solid exercise routine going with it that didn't depend on going to a gym or
unlike everybody else, right?
Well, it's I just found that to me, if I started my day by rolling out my yoga mat and giving myself permission to either do some weights, some yoga, some qigong, some stretching, whatever I wanted to do for a half an hour, and then going for a walk for a half an hour. And so I did that. I'm now actually in my second year of doing that pretty darn near every day.
Really?
And that feels great, because it's kind of a balance of there's nothing I have to do. I'm allowed to completely listen to my body in the moment, but the routine happens without fail. So it's and it's just it just is the best way for me to start my day and feel like I am the best version of myself.
Because there's got to be some sort of dichotomy between you helping, instructing people to listen to their bodies all the time, and then you not having time or to do it yourself.
Right.
It's like, you tell everybody else to do this, come on, get on it.
Exactly. And so, and that I, you know, very much am one of those people who have believed from a very early age that my worth is tied up in how much I do for others. And I think too many people, women especially in our society, are conditioned that they're not allowed to take care of themselves until everyone else in their lives' needs are met, and until they're, you know, they have to over-deliver at work, and you know, if they want to get the same salaries that their male counterparts are getting, and all this. And it's like, so I've been steeped in that idea that I'm not allowed to take care of myself, and unhooking from that and living into my values of, right, the yin and yang symbol, right, that the yang is the doing and the yin is the being, and the being aspect is enough, right? And so for me, coming to a new depth of appreciation for my own beingness and being less defined by being special and accomplished in all these ways that used to be important to me, it's like, it's just not, you know, like that I can trust that, like, you know, that, like, yes, I love having a career that allows me to act out values of kindness and caring, but it's like, it's also just enough to smile at someone and give them a hug, and, you know, like, and that's really pretty much effortless. And
so I asked that question of a lot of guests here in the car, and for some reason I had this hint that you would give one of the best answers. That's really cool. That's a really, really good answer. Hey, I want to thank you for spending some time with me and doing
it's been a pleasure.
doing the. Oh, wait! Before we go, how the heck do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can visit BrodieWelch.com. It's Brody with an IE and Welch with a CH. They can subscribe to a Healthy Curiosity podcast wherever they get their podcasts. They can give me a call on the phone in Corvallis. The number is 541-757-4868.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
That was good. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you guys on another episode of Chamber Chat. See you later.